Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Well, welcome everybody here. Thank everyone for attending. I want to also I'll introduce Bob here in a minute, but I want to explain who's on the call. We do have our Aeroseal dealers that are attending, as well as non-Aeroseal dealers, contractors that are doing work out there. I want to share too why we're doing this, and hopefully that was clear and got you to come in and share a little bit of your afternoon with us. But we want to provide good information to the market around what we hope is not confusing, but it seems to be at least until some of these details get sorted through here later with Bob on the slides that he's going to cover, but also help contractors understand what's available with the Inflation Reduction Act, and then how it can fit into your business and your business offering. It's going to be if you're not doing something like this already, it's going to be a little bit of navigational changes a little bit, but again, we're here to provide some clarity with that. So before introducing Bob, I do want to introduce Aeroseal as a company. So if you're a dealer of ours on here, thank you. We love all of you. And but we also want to welcome anyone that has interest in finding out more about Aeroseal duct sealing. And I'll go into a little bit about what Aeroseal duct sealing actually is, in case you're not familiar. So we're a manufacturer of unique duct sealing testing and sealing equipment. Seals ducts using a method with a liquid sealant that's atomized or aerosolized and put into duct systems that are under pressure, that produces efficiency results and reducing duct leakage reliably and consistently. So this is going to be able to do it up to 90% or greater reduction in duct leakage. It works in all regions in the U.S. We have dealers all over the U.S. In fact, several different countries as well. Works in commercial and residential settings and on all duct material types. We have a dealer base here at Aeroseal. They're doing work in existing homes to greatly improve customers' comfort, indoor air quality, and energy savings. And then on the new construction applications, Aeroseal dealers use it to meet the tough building code requirements and also save on the labor costs that and advantages with sealing with Aeroseal over hand sealing, in a fraction of the time and providing better results there too. So if anyone is interested in learning more about Aeroseal, feel free to drop a note in the chat of this webinar at any time. Include your name, company name, phone number, or email, some way for us to be able to reach out to you. And we're happy to have a deeper conversation with that. So now I'll introduce Bob Swilik. So Bob is our VP of Product Strategy here. Comes to us after being with Carrier for over 30 years. He started there as a gas furnace engineer, moved into leading the product management team there, and eventually became the director of advanced systems and strategy. So we're lucky to have Bob come to Aeroseal, leading our product strategy and bringing his industry experience to the staff and our dealers here at Aeroseal too. So Bob, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll get started on the webinar.
All right, thank you, Jared. It's good to be here. So we'll start off with just a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act and what it is. So it's a very big bill, but buried within that bill, there's $369 billion allocated to climate change. And it's within that section that we're going to talk about today. So the goal today really is just to bring you highlights. So every time I think I understand this bill, it turns out that there's something new going on with this bill. So it's really to bring you highlights, explain the areas that will most affect Aeroseal, and understand that there's more to come. So while the bill itself is passed, there's other departments that have to implement it and rule on certain things within it. So the IRS has to rule on tax credits. The Department of Energy has to rule on energy stuff. The states have to get involved and implement some of this too. So there's a lot of moving parts still. So, but we didn't feel like we could wait to reach out to you until all of those things were settled. So we wanted to kind of give you a upfront look at where things are now and try to predict essentially where they're moving later. So I'm going to break this down into a couple of sections: tax credit section, rebate section, and then kind of a policy section. So let's talk about the tax credits. So there's major opportunities in the tax credits right now, but there's still significant uncertainty because the IRS hasn't ruled or updated any guidelines. The IRS has asked for comments on November 4th. So we expect we'll give them comments. Other people in the industry will give them comments, and we suspect that they'll rule hopefully by the end of the year, maybe first of the year. Now let's talk a little bit about what is a tax credit. I don't know why these aren't, I can't seem to move these. So, okay, what is a tax credit? So a tax credit is a dollar for dollar reduction in the income tax you owe. So if you don't pay income taxes, you can't take a tax credit. Also, you can only take tax credits on your primary residency, not a second home. But I get a lot of questions like, what if I itemize? Can I take it? Yes. If you don't itemize, can I take it? Yes. If you have alternative minimum, can I take it? Yes. If I have a mortgage, can I take it? Yes. I can't think of any other tax things, but essentially, yes. This comes right off the top of your taxes. So if you owe or paid, let's say $1,000, and then you have a $1,000 rebate, it'll come right off of that. If you owe it, you won't owe it anymore. If you paid it, they will give you a credit on your taxes, or they'll essentially send you a check of $1,000. But it's right off the top line. It's not off of your income. It's off of your taxes. So it's a big number. So starting in 2023, there's a tax rule called 25C, which gives credits for things such as Aeroseal. Starting 2023, that goes from 10% of the cost to 30% of the cost. So a big increase in that. The homeowner can take for Aeroseal, they can take 12, or for anything within this 25C, they can take up to $1,200 every year, with some exceptions. For instance, you can take $2,000 for a heat pump, or you can take 30% off a geothermal, but in the category Aeroseal it's $1,200 every year. And I want to emphasize that every year, because previously, if they took the credit last year, they couldn't take it the next year. If they take it this year, they couldn't take it the following year. Now you are guaranteed to have this credit in place for 10 years. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, air sealing is specifically called out in the bill, but not duct sealing. So this is part of the thing that the IRS has to rule on, but we expect that duct sealing will be part of it. It has been part of it in the past. We see no reason that it won't be part of it in the future, especially since they called out air sealing. But we kind of have to put that caveat out there until we get the in writing from the IRS. So the max credit for Aeroseal is 30% or $1,200. It does not include labor. It hasn't included labor in the past. It won't include labor in the future. That's just how the bill was written. We believe that in order to take this credit, that you'll have to seal to the 2021 IECC code. So if you want to try to do this with mastic and tape and everything else and come back and test it, I don't think that you'll be able to meet that requirement. And then just as an FYI, within this 25C, there's heat pumps, there's gas furnaces, there's electric heat pump water heaters, there's panels, there's a lot of other things within this 25C. So a couple of questions here. Does Aeroseal qualify? That's kind of a big one, right? We expect it will qualify, but it does not mention duct sealing in particular, but based on past things, we really expect that it will qualify, and we're almost 100% positive it will, and we're gearing up for that to happen. What does it mean taxpayers may not include costs for labor costs for these improvements? The IRS in the past has ruled where a taxpayer pays a fixed price, the taxpayer is directed to make reasonable allocations between the qualifying cost of the property and the non-qualifying labor of the installation. This is the same as it's been in the past. Historically, as a company, Aeroseal and our dealers have just given one bill and left it up to the customer to then decide how much is labor, what is a reasonable cost for labor. This seems to work well. If it doesn't work well, we'll adjust. But right now, that is kind of how we're going to look at this moving forward, is do what's worked in the past.
So Bob, there was a question that just popped in. We're being asked, can you do $1,200 for Aeroseal plus $2,000 for heat pump in the same year?
So that is a good question. I was, matter of fact, it's on this question right here. It's the second one down, right? So can a customer use $2,000 heat pump credit and the Aeroseal credit? So this is a little bit fuzzy in the language of the bill. So this is something that we're commenting on. This is something that other people are commenting on. Of course, we want this to be additive. The IRS has verbally given feedback that to other people, not directly to us, that you can take the $2,000 for the heat pump and $1,200 for other credits. But until we have that feedback from the IRS, we can't really tell you definitively. Other questions that we get, can I layer other credits or rebates? And the answer is yes. So if you have a state, local, or utility rebate, what the IRS will ask you to do is reduce that amount from the amount you paid. It's not that clear cut, but just to make it easy, we're saying to do that. So if it's a utility, let's say you have a $2,000 bill, the utility is $1,000, you get credits on the remaining $1,000 from the tax credit.
Okay. We had one more question that came in, and again, you're probably going to get to it, but this is around anything that a homeowner is doing in the tax year of 2022.
So 2022 remains under the old rules of 10%. So it's 10%, and again, you're not allowed to take the labor, but 2022 is under the old rules. At first, when it came out, other people thought it was backward compatible, but there was some clarification from the IRS that no, under this scenario, it is not. Okay, so what is the next steps? Well, for the 25C, we obviously have to wait on the IRS ruling. But we're gearing up for this. We expect to have marketing material and material that you can explain this to the homeowner. We expect to update our website. We'll do flyers. We'll do a lot of things. Figure out the tax form that you need. Make sure that is in your hands at the time that you can sell. But essentially, we're gearing up to go at this full scale as soon as we have clarification from the IRS, and as soon as January 1, 2023 is here, we expect to be moving and moving with as much force as we can, because it is a big number, right? It's 30% of the cost. We think this will move the needle tremendously, so we're gearing up for it. Okay, in addition to that, there's part of the law that's called 45L, and this goes for mainly for aero barrier and not Aeroseal, but essentially it's credits that home builders can get for meeting Energy Star level homes and Energy Star level in the homes. This has now been extended to multifamily, and again, it's available for 10 years. So it used to be you would get it, the tax credit would be for a year, and then it would expire, and then you weren't sure if you were going to have it or not, and then they would backdate it, but all that confusion is away. It's now going to be there for 10 years. There's also a piece in there called prevailing wage. So if you use the prevailing wage on a multifamily house, you get $2,500 and $5,000 per unit in that multifamily house. So these are some pretty big numbers. Single family homes, it's $2,500 for an Energy Star requirement, and it's $5,000 if it hits net zero ready. What we've found is that builders that use our product, especially the Aero Barrier product, they can move their homes from not quite meeting the Energy Star requirements to meeting the Energy Star requirements. And so the Aero Barrier product itself will allow them to move into that requirement and get those rebates. If you don't know what our Aero Barrier product is, I'd highly encourage you to take a look at it on our website. It's exciting, and again, this will move the needle for us tremendously. And so what we're doing, just so you know a little bit how we're gearing up for this, is we're looking at builders that almost reach that Energy Star level, and then we're going to go to those builders and say, hey, if you use Aero Barrier, we'll push you into the Energy Star requirements, and then you will get these tax rebates. And we suspect this is probably as much as 20% of the homes out there that are close but can't quite get there, and we'll push them over the edge. Okay, there's also a section in there for commercial buildings. And essentially how this works is, I can't quite see my own slides here. So essentially how this works is that you get a cost per square foot, 50 cents credit per square foot for any reduction over 25% of whatever the minimum is at the time. I really screwed that up, but I apologize. So anyhow, it's 25% with the Aeroseal. You're probably not going to get 25% of the building with just Aeroseal, but if you bundle that with other things, Aeroseal could be part of this equation so that you can get it down to 25%. But it also is for retrofits. And retrofits, the number starts at $2.50, and that's a pretty big number. And we think that again will be we can be a major part of that savings. You probably have to bundle it with other things. We have ESCOs and other people that do bundle that, but it's $2.50. And if you look at kind of where the industry is going and where the country is going, you know, companies are trying to be energy conscious. They're trying to put that in as part of their stock annual report and everything else. This helps them do that. And then of course you have the rebate on top of it, and so all the momentum in the commercial building space is towards energy savings, of course, which will be a big part of that. Okay, questions on this and this is just kind of in general, I get this sometimes, is what about churches or government buildings that don't pay taxes? So essentially what will likely happen there is the person that is installing or reducing the energy of the church or the government building will take that credit on. And we also expect, again, based on past behavior of the IRS, if you use a software program approved by the DOE to calculate the costs, you'll be good there. All right. Now let's go on to rebate programs.
Bob, let me just stop you. I'm sorry, right there. We have another question. This is about about solar and solar tax credit and Aeroseal. The question actually is, in the scenario where we sell solar and Aeroseal as a package deal, what can we do as a company to give the homeowner sufficient evidence to claim their 30% in 2023? And I think what our answer is here is that, just so everybody knows, we'll have a follow-on webinar. This is a lot about the what about the Inflation Reduction Act, and then the follow-on will be to support HVAC contractors, home performance, solar, and other contractors on how the packaging of what we do in with the other services that you're doing. It was similar to that question around the heat pump part, but certainly around solar as well. So I think the answer, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the answer is that we are working towards the packaging and presentation to help our contractors and our dealer partners out there with things like this. So I I think the answer is we'll have that. We don't have that today to hand over to you, but that will be that follow-on webinar with more details.
Yes, yes, definitely. And right now, the beauty about Aeroseal is you get a certificate essentially of this is what we did and this is how we sealed your house, and that is going to be part of what you'll need. Essentially, is that piece of paper showing where we started, where we ended, your contact and your name on there, and a bill is kind of what it's going to be. But it's not going to be terribly different from what you have today as far as what you need to show to get the rebate. Okay, so let's go to rebate programs. So rebate programs are essentially programs where you get money from the government for installing the product. It's not a tax credit. You literally get that money. And right now, these programs are going to be run through the state, and the state has up to 2 years to submit to the Department of Energy how they're going to implement these programs. So we suspect that probably, late 2023, some of these states will go live. The states are currently working with a consultant how to implement these programs. So they might look very similar. Some of them might look a little bit different, but hopefully they'll all be pretty much the same. Rebates, by the way, cannot be layered on top of other things. So you can't take a rebate and then turn around and take a tax credit for the same type of thing. Let's take a look at these rebate programs. So there's something called I'm gonna have to look at my paper because my computer's now giving me all the info here. So there's something called the High Efficiency Electric Home rebate program. It's $4.3 billion, so it's a big number given to the states, and we really think that this is a gold mine. That's why we have the gold up there. But once again, it runs through December 31st, 2031, so it's going to be there a while. And there's $1,600 for insulation, air sealing, and ventilation. So $1,600 for air seal credit. The maximum that you can take here is $14,000. But it's geared towards low and moderate income homes. So what is low and moderate income home? So a household between 80% and 150% of the median, they would get 50% of the project cost. And for air sealing, that's up to $1,600. For household incomes less than 80% of the median eligible for rebate, you get 100% of the project. So again, 80% of the median, 100% of the project, and just as a kicker, the contractor is eligible for an incentive of $500. So if you have a low-income person, they will get a rebate of $1,600, and then on top of that, you'll get $500. So there's $2,100 to seal the home. So we think that this is a pretty big deal. And even multifamily homes will qualify this based on the income of the majority of the residents at the home. So big numbers with lots of grants. And then again, there's a surety for over 10 years. The only downside of this is it is going to be run through the states.
Gotcha. I did have a question that just popped in. The question is, did Bob just say that you cannot take the state rebate and the federal tax credit on the same project? He was saying that all other vendors of technology have stated that you can, and he's basically saying, I'm not saying they're right, just want to confirm your understanding of it.
Yeah, so my understanding, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's clear as mud, or it's pretty clear. It basically says right in the bill, you cannot take credit, you cannot take a tax credit and a rebate.
So I think when we package this up and come back with a follow-up here, it will be on helping to determine, from contractor to contractor, state to state, and utility rebate to utility rebate. This is where helping homeowners understand what's going to be in their best interest, right?
Yeah, so I would suspect, and I'm guessing here, right? So if you took a tax credit for, let's say, air sealing, and there is a tax the state tax credit for air sealing, you can combine those. But you can't combine this rebate program with the federal tax credit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because this is a rebate. The other two are state or credits.
Okay. And then one other question, is that $1,600 rebate for 10 years? Or what's the, so it does run,
It runs for 10 years. So the maximum somebody can get on this is $14,000.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I suspect they can take it over 10 years. The maximum they can take in that amount of time is $14,000. So they don't have to do all the work at once.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is kind of a biggie. Do I have to figure out if a customer qualifies, right? You don't want to walk into the home and start asking people, you know, how much money do you make and do you qualify for this? And so the states will be required to have a plan that verifies income eligibility and allow the rebates on the spot. So if you walk into the home, I suspect this is how it'll work. The homeowner will go to a website, they'll see if they qualify or don't qualify, and then after you do the work, you'll get the rebate right on the spot. Can I do Aeroseal rebate? It's $1,600 plus $500 for the contractor, and that's the only thing. So I don't do heat pumps, I don't do, you know, heat pump hot water heaters or insulation or anything else. Can I just go do Aeroseal and then get the $1,600 and a $500 credit? And the answer is, as it's written, yes, you can do that. But because it's going to the states, they'll have the final say on that program if you can do that. And then the other question is labor part of the $1,600. And once again, we need IRS clarification on this. In the tax credit portion, it was very clear that labor was not included. In this portion of the bill, there's no mention of labor anywhere, so it'll have to be clarified. And again, so these customers are probably pretty easy to figure out where they are by zip code, who they are by zip code. We'll probably need some help from you guys to identify them very locally, but we can target them with advertisements, mailers, and other things, and really go after this portion of the tax credits also. Okay, just kind of as a information, what else is in this program? I mentioned the heat pump. They're really pushing heat pumps. And then the electric piece that goes with the heat pump. If you have a gas furnace and you're putting in a electric heat pump, instead of 115, you need 240. So there's wiring and service upgrades and everything else to do that. So you obviously, Aerosealing is not the only thing in any of these programs. All right, there's also a homes rebate program. So the homes rebate program is for energy efficiency upgrades. And again, this is a rebate. And so the rebates are based on if you can model 20 to 35% savings, you get 50% of the cost of the product up to $2,000. So let's say you modeled 20% savings, and you had a $4,000 bill to do that, then the homeowner gets $2,000. If you model over 35% savings, the homeowner can get up to $4,000 or 50% of that savings. And I believe this rebate, and I didn't put it on here, but I believe this number actually goes up if you have low or moderate income. But I know that the states have the ability to up this or at least double the amount of rebate if it is towards a low and moderate income person. And again, good news for this, for those that are in the multifamily business, this is also part of the multifamily business, and you can get up to $200,000 for a building. So a lot of money and a lot of rebate, and 50% of the project is a pretty big deal. Okay, so now I'm going to test you. And I should have warned you that there's a test coming up. So anybody know how much tax incentive can a millionaire claim?
That's a great question.
Last Jared, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would guess. Well, I don't know. I don't know how much, but they have to pay taxes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they have to file and all that. So, gosh, I don't know. I know at least the 1,200, depending on what else they might install with equipment. I don't know what the max would be. I feel like there's a trick question here, though, Bob. Knowing you,
It's not easy, right?
yeah.
So let me give you the answer. So you're right in the thought process, right?
Yeah.
It's 1,200, but the reason I put this in here is that one, it's not always 1,200. Sometimes
Right.
it can be more than that. So 2,000 for a heat pump, more than that for geothermal, and it's 1,200 every year. I just want to be clear on that because it goes for 10 years. And so if you're smart as a taxpayer, right, you'll want this tax credit every year because it's 30% of a project that will enhance the comfort and the value and lower your utility bills. So it's a pretty big number.
I think, Bob, I think this is a great way to bring, you know, again, I've talked about packaging this, like how do you take what this is and or how can we help take what this is or what it could be for your business and your customers and then make it presentable. This is the part that we're talking about. And we're not going to be the only ones. You know, I would expect some of the software platform companies out there that they're going to dig in, like everyone is going to want to help as much as possible with getting access or helping your homeowners get access to the funds and whether it's rebates or tax incentives. So I like this this screen because it does show the roll up, right?
Yeah.
And the potential saving or total savings and opportunity there for a homeowner.
Yeah, and I use the term millionaire just a little bit kiddingly.
Sure.
One, to demonstrate that anybody can get it. So at one time there was questions of, well, if I make over a certain amount of money, can I still take the tax credit? And that was for electric vehicles, and people just assumed that it was for everything else. It's not part of the climate change bill. And then the other thing is just to reemphasize it's $1,200 every year for 10 years. So you don't have to worry they already took the credit. They took it last year. You do have to worry what else they have within the given year. Okay, so other things in there, just FYI, there's battery storage, geothermal, electric panels, all those other things. So you will have to compete within a given year with other things. But I think if you were to look at these other things, quite frankly, the payback would be quickest on duct sealing. And I don't really say that from as that's a little bit self-serving, but I really do believe that that's the case. Okay, so another question. So we have a millionaire. So what is the tax incentive for a guy making $80,000 with a single income?
That's a question to me then.
So yep.
So again, pretty difficult, I think, without knowing what they're going to be installing. But I think that it changes a little bit based on strictly on the actual income, right? So,
right.
So help me with that rule.
So the income piece. Why did I pick $80,000? It was done on purpose. So $80,000, you think, okay, they will not be low or moderate income, right? $80,000 is a pretty healthy income, but the reality is they are low and moderate income. So I believe if you look at, I had those numbers here somewhere, but if you look at the median household income in the United States, it's somewhere around $71,000 for the household. So 150% of $71,000, it gets up there pretty high. And then those people can take 50% of the cost for upgrades. So they can actually take the tax credits, most of the tax credits every year. They don't pay a lot of taxes, federal taxes, and then they can take the upfront discounts from the other program. Okay, so last one up. Hold on, I already gave you the answer, unfortunately. So incentives for a person making $40,000.
I think there's there opportunity for that to be to be a greater incentive.
One would think, right?
Yeah.
One would think, but you're wrong.
All right. I was hoping pulling for everybody here.
So the reason it's actually the same or less is one, they don't pay a lot of taxes, right? So they can't take much off from the tax credit, and there is a limit on how much you can take for the other rebate programs. So whether you're moderate income, you can take up to $14,000, or whether you're low income, you can take under $14,000. But what's the benefit for lower income? And I'll even circle it there for you.
Oh, on the 100% of costs?
That's right.
Yeah.
100% of the cost. 100% of the cost. So they can actually spend up to $14,000, and they'll get the rebate on all of that. Okay. No more questions.
Good, because I don't think I fared very well on the quiz.
Okay. So just a couple of comments here. So this is the household electrification incentive, and we're under the weatherization part of that. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about, like, the heat pump air conditioner is $8,000, right? So $8,000 is a very big number. $2,000 for the tax credit is a very big number. Now, in order to get that heat pump credit, you have to have the highest CEE level product. And coming from the HVAC industry, the only way you meet that today is if it's the highest end variable speed product in anybody's product line. That is a very small percentage of sales. Today, it's probably, well, not probably, I know it's less than 10%. So let's say you double that and it goes to 20%. It's still 80% of the time that an HVAC guy is installing equipment, the homeowner will not want to go up to that level to get that type of incentive. We saw this before in 2010 when there was a $1,500 tax credit. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% of the homeowners elected to go up to that level. And that was when you stayed at a single speed. So you went from a 13 SEER at the time to a 16 SEER, but you stayed in a single speed. Now you go into a variable speed. You have to have a variable speed outdoor. You have a variable speed indoor. Now I say that today, but I suspect if I was sitting where I was sitting 3 months ago, I would have said, hey, we can probably hit this level with a 2-speed system, and we can probably hit 1.5 ton with the single stage system and get that into those homes rebate programs. This is not from me. This is from a website I pulled this from, and this is the cost for their expected cost for the variable speed for the heat pump that meets these requirements. So on a 1,500 square foot home, it's $8,000. Hence, that's why $8,000 is in the low income portion rebate section. If you get into a higher home, it's again $14,000, and a 3,000 square foot home, it's up to $20,000. Those things kind of appear to me that like they're within reason. So I just kind of want to put a little bit of a reality check on the heat pumps. Now I do know before I left my previous job, there was a debate within the government and the industry whether that level was too high. And so they were looking at maybe moving that down to the Energy Star level. If you move it down to the Energy Star level, those are really low. Actually, they're kind of on top of the minimum for 2023. So they were really in negotiations on what that level would be. So at this point in time, it's still a little bit muddy on what the heat pump level will be. Then, go ahead.
Yeah, before we jump into building code adoption here, there's a couple of the questions. So we were talking about one of the questions in here, Paul's wanting some clarification on. Again, thank everybody for the questions. We were talking about the tax incentive or the tax credit, and then the rebates. And I believe we were saying a question was, can they take both? And so Paul was asking on the previous slides there where we're talking about the millionaire, the 80,000 and the 40,000. that slide seemed to be showing the tax incentive and the rebate combined. So I think we want to get clarification.
Okay. Yeah, so it's essentially the same question. So I probably confused everybody with that. So let's say you're just doing aerosealing, right? So we'll do what we know.
Mm-hmm.
You can take the tax credit, but you can't take you can't then take the other rebates for that same thing. But you could take a rebate for something else, right? Or instead, you can take the rebate for the aerosealing, but you then can't take the tax credit, one of the two. But you can't take them for the same thing.
Gotcha. So hopefully that does that clarifies it a little bit. And I know on that it was a nice summary and a roll up. It didn't pull out or didn't I think specify what was in those amounts, but I think that's good clarification. If not, Paul or someone else hit us up here with a question in the chat.
Okay. All right. So the last thing I wanted to go over was there's a $1 billion grant to have the states adopt the latest building code for residential new construction. And on the left, it kind of shows you a map. The states in green are people that are using the 2021 code or have announced that they will use the 2021 code starting in 2023. So this code for duct leakage is pretty strict. It requires 4 cubic feet per minute for 100 square feet of conditioned floor area. So pretty strict on the ducts, and of course Aeroseal will help with that. There's also an air leakage requirement for the building envelope of 3 air changes per hour in zones 3 through 8. So it's 5 air changes per hour in zones 1 through 2, and then 3 in zones 3 through 8. That's a pretty tight leakage. And again, we can very easily get there with aero barrier. And what we found is that most builders that try to hit the 3 or lower level will almost always use aero barrier. So this $1 billion will try to push the states towards the 2021 building code. And also in the past, states have been adopted the code with a bunch of amendments. So it might be, well, you know, this is hard to get, so we'll adopt the code, but not adopt this piece of the code. So what this $1 billion is to say, hey, we need you to go to the 2021 code. We need you to not do a bunch of exceptions. Mm-hmm. We'll give you money to train people, show them how it's done, inform people, you know, set up an apparatus to make sure that enforcement of the code is in place. So we suspect that a lot of people will move to this 2021 building code, which if you're in a state that is not green or you're in a state that's purple, some of these builders might be in for, you know, a little bit of a learning curve to go all the way from a 2009 code all the way up to a 2021 code.
So it's that $1 billion is meant to be the bridge to help encourage not just adoption, but the actual enforcement to get those homes and buildings to the code.
That's right. That's right. So there'd be a mechanism in place for enforcement, a mechanism in place for training,
right?
And try to get people to go to those higher and higher levels. All right, that is my last slide, I believe.
All right. Well, I think that's well timed. We were looking at being able to give 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. And there are 2 questions that I have in here to throw back over here to you. So Barbara was asking, does this apply to renters and homeowners? And let me back up, Barb, to your original question here. So
my understanding is no, it does not. So if you're renting a place, it has to be your primary residence. But if a building owner decides that he wants to upgrade the building, that will count. And if the renters are in that moderate or low income on average, then the building owner will get rebates according to that program.
Right. So companies or individuals that own multifamily buildings, they'll apply.
Right.
The individual renters will not. Right. Okay. I've got another question. Travis had asked, just to cover, or what are the efficiency levels the heat pumps need to be or to achieve?
So I don't know that off the top of my head. I remember it was at least an 18 SEER, but I can't remember what the HSPF was.
Yeah.
But I do remember, I looked at this at one time, and I do remember that there were like one or two odd ducts, but only variable speed, the highest of the high end, met it, and then nobody had a full product line. I think Carrier had a 2, 3, and 4 ton, and their 5 ton didn't make it. Some people had a 1 ton and a 3 ton that made it, and the 4 and 5 didn't. Some people only had a 4 ton. But I think that they'll probably clean that up pretty quick and get at least their top end to make it. And then long term, I do think that they'll be able to get it on lower tiers.
Okay. All right. What other questions that everyone may have out there? Hopefully we've got a few more. Any more coming in? Say this, if anybody wants to, we're talking or doing more with state rebates, trying to help utilities and maneuver or find ways to, beyond this Inflation Reduction Act, but to find ways to incentivize contractors and homeowners to take measures in their home to improve energy efficiency. And it's more of, you hear the two terms used around this: building codes. People look at it as the stick, rebates and tax credits and things, or the carrots behind it. And I feel like the Inflation Reduction Act, for what it is, and for there's some clarity in areas, there's some that needs to be worked on and improved on, but it is a lot of carrot here, right? It is a big number, a lot of money being put out there to help move the market forward in a direction to make these energy efficiency upgrades. We're seeing it at the state level as well. So a couple more questions pop in. Does the rebate start if sold starting now or not until 1/1? I think we said it's January 1, 2023 is when it starts, right?
Close.
Okay.
So I gotta separate it.
Okay.
So the tax credit starts January 1, 2023. So that is the 25C, the 30% tax credit, assuming you pay taxes. The rebate section will be implemented by the states, and as soon as they get their program approved by the Department of Energy. As I said, we expect that not to happen until sometime in the third quarter of 2023.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And let's see, we have. Yeah, I'll share with everybody here too. So we are expecting we'll send a recorded link of the webinar out. I know several people are asking for that. Let's see. When will all of this be finalized so we can inform the owner? This is the homeowner, Gennaro, I believe you're asking, when will all of this be finalized so we can inform the owner? And I'm assuming you're meaning homeowner. So we're definitely going to have another follow-up to help contractors sort of put this together, package it together. And it's certainly for our Aeroseal dealers on Aeroseal duct sealing specifically. But I don't know, Bob, every day it seems like you're coming in with more information around it.
We're getting a little bit smarter every day.
Yeah.
But I think what you're asking me to do is guess how fast the government will move, right? Our plan will be geared up starting January 1.
Okay.
And we hope to have information and material and everything else out to you before January 1. The goal, we certainly hope that we'll have clarification by that date on the 25C, the 30% tax credit piece.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So just as an FYI, on the back end of this, so what I don't want you to have to slog through this PowerPoint as I went through it. So on the back end, there's something that's called more details, and it kind of goes through each one of these in kind of a pretty, detailed explanation of what it is, what we expect, what's going on in a more concise type of manner. So if you want, I'm trying to give you all the information you need in one spot, as concise as you can get it.
And again, we're gonna push out a lot more as clarity around all this comes through. So I had a question. Andrew asked, I work in New York and Connecticut now. Can I can tell my New York clients that a $1,600 tax credit is available. So I think there was a $1,600 rebate, right?
Right. So there's and that pilot. So that's where, because I did the same thing, right? As soon as I understand it, I get confused and it's like, so that's where this will come in handy. You'll know what's a credit, what's a rebate, what's everything else. So the rebate portion will have to wait until the states get approval from the Department of Energy to implement. And it's again for low and medium income homes. So what you'll be able to tell you New York people is on January 1, hopefully, if we have clarity from the IRS, on January 1, you'll have $1,200, up to a $1,200 rebate, or 30% of the cost. Right. So that would be New York. And by the way, if you're in Connecticut, I don't know which part of Connecticut there is, but there's a $1,000 utility rebate in Connecticut right now for Aeroseal. So you can take that today. And as I mentioned before, you can also combine those two in 2023 to get the utility rebate and the tax credit. So pretty much at that point, you're paying for 60–70% of the seal at that point in Connecticut.
Yeah, they have been. That's one that I was actually referring to, or came to mind when I was talking about how different states are really trying to figure out how they can help homeowners save energy, but also, part of this too is a little bit of relief on the grid. The continued growth, more and more homes means more and more need for power, with electric vehicles, different things that people that are using in their home, and wanting to make sure that the grid is safe, reliable, and all that. So there are states that are really wanting to give attention to it now. I think that's where a lot of this also is going to drive.
Yeah,
so.
and as they try to push towards heat pumps, that of course takes some of the load off of gas furnaces, and then it puts it onto the electric grid. Now, one of the beauty about Aeroseal with heat pumps is heat pumps have historically had cold blow, so they have low air temperatures